Hello, welcome to the Myth-Busting Neurodiverse Relationships podcast. I'm Natalie Roberts and I'm here with my co-host, Heather Parks. We've both been in our neurodiverse relationships and families for more than 25 years. We met 10 years ago when we were feeling really desperate and trying to solve a lot of issues in our relationship and our families. We've been journeying since then. We've found many more positive and hopeful ways to solve, resolve, repair, reconnect in those relationships and in our families, in our lives. And we now co-host also Loving Difference online, giving hope and a way forward for neurodiverse relationships. In this podcast, though, we're busting the myths about neurodiverse relationships, which we had when we started this journey, that we've realised aren't true, and that actually were preventing us from recovering and having the relationships with our partners and children that we wanted. So we want to dispel these myths and bring you hope that absolutely things can change. So whether you're out and about or comfy with a cuppa, let's dive into our next conversation. See you there.
Hi, Heather here to introduce this episode of the Myth-Busting podcast. Recently, Natalie and I celebrated 10 years of friendship, during which we've recovered our well-being, healed past hurts, figured out healthier ways of relating, and found ways to be ourselves again. And become accredited coaches, created Love and Difference and the Love and Difference programme with all the step-by-step guidance for others so that they can recover and be themselves too. It's been a pretty incredible journey. And yet it all started with one decision. That one choice I made and followed through on that meant that we were in the same place at the same time. And when I was reflecting on just how hard it was for me to make that choice, to decide to go and get some support and to follow through on that, I realised that many of you listening on our podcast might be experiencing similar fears, doubts, and barriers to getting support. The myth I'd like to bust in this podcast is that we have to figure this out on our own. You really don't. The truth we want you to know is that there is hope and a way forward. And if you resonate with anything I say in this short podcast, we hope you decide to take action to join us. So, a whole 10 years ago, I can't hardly believe it's 10 years, and I'm inviting you to do a bit of time travel with me back to that time, a time when I was struggling really badly. And just thinking that of me in that room, I've just got this really clear image of me sat there. We were in this kind of horseshoe around the room and meeting these people all for the first time. I can remember where Natalie was sitting and just being there. And if someone had just come into that room and said that, okay, in 7 years' time, you'll have reversed all of the symptoms of the persistent stress that you've experienced, rediscovered me, and completely retrained, become a professional coach and set up a business. I just would never have believed them. Back then, that would have just felt totally impossible. Back then, even making a decision to go and get some support felt really big. And I could have so easily done what I normally do when faced with things that are hard or involve me making a request of somebody else, or maybe involving or inconveniencing another person. I could have just avoided it. I could have chosen to continue struggling on my own. I could continue to Google, read, watch stuff, read stuff, and try and figure it out myself, even though the evidence was really strong that I was not working. But the fear was really real. So that was quite a tempting option. Just do nothing was the most tempting option of all. And it was only this sheer desperation and sense that I was failing my children that meant that I really pushed myself to overcome the fear and take that step towards recovering myself, to getting that support. And I could see the situation that I was in was costing me a lot, and I could see that it was costing the family a lot. And that was kind of bigger than the fear of taking the step, I guess. I knew my health was suffering. I knew my children were suffering. I knew I was miserable and the situation seemed hopeless. But of course, as these things are, the only thing I can found that felt remotely like it fitted my situation was miles away. There was a cost to it, and it also meant staying away a night from home, at least one night. And that all felt impossible. I couldn't leave my children as they needed me for co-regulation and safety. I didn't have an independent source of money. And money was tight because I wasn't able to work because my children weren't able to go to school regularly. And I didn't even have a sense that it was sort of okay to invest in myself. That didn't feel like a priority. Everyone else had needs that were bigger than mine, or I believed also that I should just be able to figure it out. I shouldn't need to go and get help. I also believed that I wouldn't get support from my partner to go. So I had lots of beliefs about, what was okay for me to do and what wasn't okay. And the finances and the childcare, these were all obstacles that I had to try and overcome just to go and get a little bit of support. And that was the only way I could begin to justify it, was that I had to somehow return to the very best of version of me, or find that version of me, even because my children needed the very best of me. And I couldn't support them from the state I was in. And that fueled me to go forward. And I did what I always did at that time. I rallied my friends to do school runs, to feed the children, never considering that I could leave them to my busy husband. Didn't want to burden him, didn't believe I could ask. Actually, to be honest, didn't really trust him. Didn't trust him to be regulated, to support them emotionally. Didn't trust him to feed them, to remember to pick them up on time. Lots of different issues around trust getting involved. So I minimised the time away. I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning to avoid a second night at the hotel. I wasn't honest about the workshop, didn't tell them what it was about, didn't say how much it cost, didn't communicate about it well. It was just, it was just one of those, but it was the best I could do. I was doing the best I could with the resources and knowledge that I had at the time. I was anxious, I was stressed, I was fearful, and probably my biggest fear of all was that it wouldn't even help. What if I've wasted this money? What if I've caused all these disruptions? What if my hopes are dashed? And I just didn't think I could cope with the disappointment of it not working. But I got there. And in that workshop, I met Natalie and other people who understood and just got it. And it was a real mixture of relief on the one hand and also total despair, because I had no idea how far from myself I'd wandered, how entrenched I was in unhealthy ways of relating. And I felt like I'd been sleepwalking for years and years and years. And suddenly I had been really quite brutally and abruptly woken up, and then we're kind of just left to figure it out. So we now needed to go away from that workshop and figure out how to reverse our way out of all of this so that I could recover from the persistent stress that I was under and rediscover myself from layers and layers of unhealthy relationship dynamics. And there was so much to figure out. I remember feeling overwhelmed. I just felt like I'd arrived somewhere, but there was no map, no compass, no real sense of where to go next. But what I did now have was a mini cheerleading squad. The encouragement and inspiration of a group of people sharing things that we began to find that, discover that was helpful and supporting us in our journeys, and the celebration of each courageous step that we took to recover and to be ourselves. And now, 10 years on, Natalie and I are hosting this amazing place where we've combined all the ways we've discovered to recover ourselves and created the Loving Difference relationship system. And the Loving Difference coaching program has both that step-by-step guidance, the professional support, and that encouraging community, the ingredients that we needed to recover ourselves. And to be here as coaches, showing up for you and supporting you to do that is just beyond my imaginings 10 years ago. I certainly feel that we've created the place that we wish we'd had 10 years ago. Actually, what am I saying? It probably would have been better if we had it 25 years ago and didn't get into this problems in the first place. That would have been even better. But now there is a space where you can recover, be yourselves, be you again, make confident, informed decisions about what you want for your future. So maybe the obstacles to getting that support, to joining the Love in Difference programs feel like some of those that I faced 10 years ago. Maybe they're slightly different. Maybe feels like you're at a bit of a crossroads right now. And maybe straight ahead of you, there is the path that is familiar, the one you're currently on. So imagine yourself continuing along this path for weeks, months, years, doing the same thing, experiencing the same hamster wheel of unresolved issues. And now just off to the side, I want you to just imagine that there's another path and you've not seen it before. It's different to every path you've ever tried before. So you're not sure about it. And there seems to be some obstacles in front of it and it's windy, so it's not really clear where it's going. But you can just about make out there's something in the distance. So you just step onto this path and just push a few of the barriers aside, and you can start to see that there's an opening. And there are some signposts, definite clear directions, a map, and there's people there to welcome you and support you to move forward. There's a sense of hope. There's a sense that there is a way forward on this path that is going to take you somewhere different than the old familiar path. This is the Love in Difference path. And yes, maybe it feels hard to trust it will help. Yes, maybe it feels hard to invest, to access the funds, to find the time. And we believe that on the other side of those obstacles, you'll be so glad you took this path. I'm so glad I took my path at that time 10 years ago, because the path I am on now is so much better than where the other path was taking me. If this episode has resonated with you, subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening or watching to get notifications of future episodes. To dive deeper into all of this, with professional coaching, resources, and all the support you need, join us in Love in Difference via www.loveindifference.net. And we'll be back here soon.